She had 6 weeks to write a love story she no longer believed in. Iris's publisher had been clear: deliver the manuscript or lose the contract. Her therapist had been clearer: she was writing about emotions she refused to feel. The divorce had stripped her clean. Every love scene she drafted felt mechanical, hollow. She could describe a racing heart, trembling hands, the catch of breath before a kiss, but she couldn't remember what any of it felt like. So she did what any desperate writer would do. She drafted a different kind of contract. Owen's bookstore was 2 months from closing. The proposal she slid across the cafe table was typed on letterhead, terms numbered 1 through 12. 12 dates, 12 opportunities to study what love looked like up close. He'd signed because he needed the money. She'd signed because she needed the material. Owen's signature was still wet on the page when she realized she'd forgotten to account for one variable. What if he started to feel it first? The cursor blinked on the empty page. Iris watched it pulse in the dark room like something alive, something mocking. She pressed a key. The cursor moved one space right. She deleted it. The cursor returned. Outside, rain tapped against the window. Portland in October always felt like this: gray light, wet streets, the smell of coffee and damp leaves. Her apartment overlooked a street lined with bookstores and cafes. People walked below with umbrellas, their lives small and contained under circles of fabric. She used to find that comforting, the idea that a life could be something you carried, something you closed when the storm passed. Now the blinking cursor felt like a heartbeat she couldn't silence. Chapter 1, the document said at the top. Below it, nothing. 3 months of nothing. Her publisher had called last week. Iris had let it go to voicemail. The message was still there, unplayed. She knew what it said. The same thing Vera had said when she'd stopped by with coffee and concern. Deliver by December 15th or the contract dies. December 15th, 6 weeks. Iris closed the laptop. The room went darker. She reached for her phone, scrolled through old photos she shouldn't look at. There, her wedding day. White dress, spring light, a smile that looked real because it had been. The next photo showed the same smile, but thinner, then gone. The divorce papers had been signed on a Tuesday. She remembered because it had rained that day too. Her ex-husband, had worn the same cologne he'd worn when they met. She'd wanted to ask him why. She hadn't. She set the phone face down on the table. The apartment was too quiet. She could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen, the clock on the wall ticking, her own breathing. She'd lived alone for 8 months now and still hadn't adjusted to the silence. Marcus had always filled space with sound, music, podcasts, commentary on whatever he was reading. The silence he left behind felt archaeological, like something buried that shouldn't be disturbed. The rain grew louder. Somewhere a siren wailed. The cursor was still blinking when she opened the laptop again. She stared at it for another hour. Her tea went cold on the desk. Her back began to ache. Still, nothing came. Then she opened a new document and began typing something that wasn't Chapter 1. It was a contract of a different kind. The memory arrived the way memories do when you don't want them. Sharp, uninvited, clear. The lawyer's office had smelled like lemon polish and old carpet. Iris sat on one side of the table. Marcus sat on the other. The mediator between them spoke in a voice trained to sound neutral. Iris heard none of it. She watched Marcus's hands instead. He'd stopped wearing his ring 2 weeks before the meeting. The skin where it had been was pale. She still wore hers. She didn't know why. "Ms. Calloway?" the mediator said. Iris looked up. "Yes?" "Do you agree to the terms as stated?" She glanced at Marcus. He wasn't looking at her. He was looking at the window, at the gray sky beyond, at anything that wasn't this room. "Yes," she said. The mediator slid the papers across the table. Iris signed. Marcus signed. The mediator witnessed. That was it. 7 years reduced to signatures in staples. They stood. Marcus extended his hand. Iris stared at it. They'd held hands 1,000 times. Now he wanted to shake hers like she was a colleague, a transaction. She shook it. "Take care of yourself," Marcus said. "You too." He left first. Iris stayed in the chair. The mediator asked if she needed a moment. Iris said no. She stood. She walked out. She drove home. She sat in her car in the driveway for 20 minutes before going inside. The house had felt different when she finally opened the door. Emptier. Not because Marcus had taken his things, he'd done that weeks before, but because the space itself had changed. What used to be home was now just where she lived. That night she opened her laptop to write. The words that came out were wrong, flat, distant. She deleted them. Tried again. Same result. She'd written 7 novels, 5 bestsellers, a career built on understanding the architecture of love. And now she couldn't construct a single authentic sentence about it. She'd called her therapist the next day, started sessions, talked about grief and loss, and the difference between knowing something intellectually and feeling it in your body. Her therapist had asked what she was afraid of. Iris hadn't been able to answer. That had been 8 months ago. Now the rain on the window sounded the same as it had then. The cursor blinked the same. Her hands hovered over the keys the same. But this time she didn't try to write a love scene. She wrote terms, conditions, a framework for what she needed. When she finished, she saved the document as contract_draft and closed the laptop. Tomorrow she'd find someone to sign it. Vera's office smelled like peppermint tea and printer ink. Iris sat in the chair across from her agent's desk and watched Vera read the contract draft. Vera's expression didn't change. She finished the last page, set it down, removed her glasses, and looked at Iris with the kind of patience reserved for children and clients. "You want to hire someone to pretend to date you?" Vera said. "To help me write the book," Iris corrected, "by pretending to date you. By giving me material, authentic interactions, something real to observe." Vera leaned back in her chair. "Iris, sweetheart, this is insane. It's research. It's desperation." Iris didn't argue. Vera picked up her tea, sipped, set it down. The steam rose between them. "What does your therapist say about this?" "I haven't told her." "Probably smart. She'd have you committed." Vera sighed. "Look, I get it. You're blocked. Marcus really did a number on you. But this?" She tapped the contract. "This isn't going to fix what's broken." "I don't need to fix what's broken," Iris said. "I need to finish the book." "And you think paying someone to play boyfriend is going to unlock your creative genius?" "I think experiencing the structure of a relationship without the emotional risk might help me remember how to write one." Vera stared at her. "Do you hear yourself?" Iris said nothing. Outside the office window, people walked through Pioneer Courthouse Square. Couples held hands. Friends laughed. Strangers moved through their lives like water through a channel, easy and unrehearsed. Iris couldn't remember the last time anything felt unrehearsed. Every conversation felt scripted. Every smile performed. Even this one, sitting across from Vera, felt like a scene she was directing from outside her own body. "December 15th, Vera said quietly. "That's the deadline. You miss it, they pull the deal. You know that." "I know. And you think 6 weeks of fake dating is going to get you there?" "Yes." Vera rubbed her temples. She'd been Iris's agent for 10 years, had shepherded 5 books to publication, had negotiated contracts, placated editors, talked Iris through 3 separate creative crises. But this was different. Vera could see it in Iris's face. This wasn't creative crisis. This was something deeper. "Who's the poor soul you're planning to rope into this?" Vera asked. Iris pulled out her phone, showed Vera a photo. A bookstore. Narrow aisles. Warm light. The sign outside read, "Hastings & Co." "There's a bookstore owner, Owen Hastings. His store is struggling. I thought, you thought you'd exploit his financial desperation to fuel your creative desperation. I thought I'd offer a mutually beneficial arrangement. Vera handed back the phone. She stood, paced to the window, looked down at the square. A street musician played violin. People dropped coins in his case. Everyone negotiating their own small transactions. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. And if it doesn't work, if you're still blocked after 6 weeks, then at least I tried something. Vera turned back to her. If this blows up in your face, I don't want to hear about it. Noted. And if you write a bestseller from it, I want 15% instead of 10. Iris almost smiled. Deal. Hastings and Company occupied a narrow storefront on Hawthorne Boulevard between a coffee roaster and a vintage clothing shop. Iris pushed open the door. A bell chimed. The smell hit her first. Old paper, dust, the faint vanilla scent of aging paperbacks. Shelves lined every wall, stacked floor to ceiling. A rolling ladder leaned against the far side. Light filtered through the front window, catching dust motes suspended in the air. The store was empty except for one person. He stood behind the counter, tallying something in a ledger with a pencil. Not typing, writing by hand. He wore a faded gray sweater with the sleeves pushed to his elbows. His hair was dark, slightly too long, falling into his eyes when he looked down. He didn't notice her at first. Iris walked deeper into the store. She ran her finger along a shelf. Poetry, classics, a whole section devoted to local authors. The books were organized with care, not just alphabetical, thematic, grouped by mood, by season, by the kind of reader who might need them. She pulled out a slim volume. The cover was worn soft. Someone had loved this book enough to break its spine. A handwritten note was tucked inside the front cover. For anyone who needs to remember that sadness ends. No signature, just the message. Iris slid it back. She moved to another section. Fiction. The spines were arranged by color in one corner, creating a rainbow effect. In another corner, books were stacked horizontally with small handwritten cards describing not the plot, but the feeling. For when you're homesick for a place you've never been. For quiet Sunday mornings. For rage that needs direction. This wasn't just a bookstore. It was curated with the kind of attention that came from actually caring. Can I help you find something? She turned. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. His voice was quieter than she expected. Careful. Just looking, Iris said. Take your time. He started to turn back toward the counter. Actually, she said, are you Owen Hastings? He stopped. I am. I'm Iris Calloway. Recognition flickered across his face. The writer. You know my work? You're kind of hard to miss if you own a bookstore. He gestured toward a small display near the front. Her last 3 novels. Face out. A handwritten card beneath them read, Local Author. I've read all of them. The second one is my favorite. The second goodbye? Yeah, the ending wrecked me for a week. Iris had written that book in the first year of her marriage, when she still believed endings could be happy. Thank you, Owen nodded. Silence settled between them. Not uncomfortable, just present. He waited for her to speak. She appreciated that. Most people rushed to fill silence. He let it exist. I have a strange question, she said. Okay. Do you have a few minutes to talk? He glanced at the empty store. The clock on the wall read 3:15. I have nothing but minutes. She followed him to a small table near the back. 2 chairs, a reading lamp. He sat. She sat. Between them, the lamp glowed warm against the afternoon gray. She could see him more clearly now. Lines at the corners of his eyes, ink stains on his right hand, a small scar above his left eyebrow. He looked tired, not sleepy, tired in a deeper way. So, he said, strange question? Iris opened her bag and pulled out the contract. Owen read the first page, then the second. His expression didn't change. When he reached the end, he set the contract on the table and looked at her with something between confusion and disbelief. "You want to pay me to date you," he said, "to simulate dating me, for research purposes." Research. I'm blocked. I need material, authentic interactions, a structure to observe. "So you want me to be your research subject?" "Consultant," Iris corrected. "The contract specifies 12 dates over 6 weeks. Each date is planned with specific scenarios designed to recreate common romantic milestones. First dinner, first argument, first vulnerability. The goal is to give me a framework to write from." Owen leaned back in his chair. "And you'd pay me?" $5,000, half up front, half upon completion. He was quiet for a long moment. "Why me?" "You own a bookstore, you understand narrative structure, and," she hesitated, "you need the money." His jaw tightened. "How do you know that?" "I asked around. I'm sorry if that feels invasive, but I wanted someone who'd take this seriously, someone who had a reason to follow through." Owen stood. He walked to the window, looked out at the street. A couple walked past holding hands. A bus hissed to a stop. The coffee roaster next door had a line out the door. "My store is 2 months from closing, maybe less. I've tried everything. Loans, crowdfunding, events, author signings. Nothing works. People don't buy books the way they used to." He turned back to her. "5,000 would buy me time. Not much, but time. Then we both get something we need." "What makes you think I can do this? Pretend to feel something I don't?" "I'm not asking you to feel anything, just to participate. Show up, be present, let me observe." He crossed his arms. "What happens if it doesn't work? If you're still blocked after 6 weeks?" "Then I don't deliver the manuscript and my career stalls. But that's my risk, not yours. You still get paid." "And what happens if it does work? I'm in your book?" "Changed, fictionalized. The contract includes an NDA. No one would know." Owen picked up the contract again. He read through it more slowly this time. She watched him pause on certain sections. The payment terms, the timeline, the clause about physical boundaries. His finger traced the words without reading them aloud. Iris watched his face. She couldn't read him. He had the kind of stillness that made you want to fill the silence. She resisted. Finally, he said, "This is the strangest thing anyone's ever asked me to do." "Is that a no?" He looked at her, really looked, like he was trying to see past the request to the person underneath. "Can I think about it?" "Of course, take the night. I'll come back tomorrow." She stood. He didn't. She left the contract on the table and walked toward the door. The bell chimed when she opened it. She paused. "Owen?" He looked up. "For what it's worth, I hope you find a way to save this place. It's a good store." She left before he could respond. Owen sat alone in the bookstore after closing. The contract lay on the table where Iris had left it. He read it again. The language was precise, clinical. 12 dates, specified activities, terms of engagement, an NDA, payment structure. It read like something drafted by a lawyer. Probably was. He pulled out his phone. 3 missed calls from his sister. He ignored them. She wanted money again. Her son's tuition, car repairs, something. There was always something. He loved her, but he was tired of being the answer to everyone's problems when he couldn't solve his own. The ledger sat open on the counter. Red numbers, more red than black. The landlord had been patient, but patience had limits. 2 months, maybe 3 if he begged. Then what? He'd put 7 years into this place. Every shelf he'd built himself. Every book he'd chosen with care. The handwritten notes, the thematic arrangements, the reading corner with the lamp his grandmother had given him. It was supposed to be legacy. Instead it was debt. $5,000. It wouldn't save the store, but it would give him time. Time to figure something out. Time to breathe. Time to try one more thing before admitting defeat. He stood and walked through the aisles. His hand trailed along the spines. Poetry, fiction, history, cookbooks, self-help, travel guides. Each one a small world. Each one a promise that someone, somewhere, had something to say worth preserving. He'd believed in that promise, still did, even as the numbers turned redder and the foot traffic thinned and the online retailers undercut his prices by half. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister. "Can you call me? It's important." Everything was always important. He typed back, "Tomorrow, I promise." He returned to the table, picked up the contract. The terms were clear. 12 dates, no physical intimacy beyond what might be publicly expected. Hand-holding, a brief kiss if contextually appropriate. All interactions documented by Iris for writing purposes. He would not read the manuscript. He would not discuss the arrangement with anyone. At the end of 6 weeks, they would part ways and the agreement would be void. It was strange. It was transactional. It was possibly the most honest relationship proposal he'd ever seen. No pretending it was something it wasn't. No false promises, just an exchange. Time and presence for money and material. He thought about Iris, the way she'd looked at his bookstore, actually looked. Noticed the organization, read the handwritten cards. Most people walked in, scanned for bestsellers and left. She'd seen what he'd built. Owen found a pen in the drawer beneath the counter. He clicked it once, twice. Then he signed his name at the bottom of the last page, dated it, and set the pen down. Tomorrow, he'd tell her yes. The cafe on Division Street was small and warm. Iris arrived first. She chose a table near the back, away from the window, away from the noise of the espresso machine. When Owen walked in, he spotted her immediately. He looked different in daylight, less tired, or maybe just more resolved. He sat across from her. I signed. Iris felt something loosen in her chest. Relief. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might be terrible at this. You just have to show up. That's all I need. A server came. They ordered coffee. When she left, Owen pulled the contract from his bag and slid it across the table. His signature was there in blue ink. Iris added hers beside it. Witnessed by no one, just the two of them and the agreement between them. So, Owen said, how does this work? Iris pulled out a notebook. I've outlined 12 dates, each one designed around a common romantic scenario. Tonight is date 1, first dinner. The goal is to establish baseline interactions. Get comfortable with each other's presence. Comfortable, or at least familiar. Owen smiled slightly. You're very organized about this. I'm a planner. I noticed. The coffee arrived. Iris wrapped her hands around the cup. The warmth bled through the ceramic. She took a sip. Too hot. She set it down to cool. Owen drank his black. No sugar, no cream. He didn't flinch at the heat. Tell me something about yourself, Iris said. Something real. Is this part of the date or the research? Both. Owen thought for a moment. He looked out the window at the street. Rain had started again. Light. Almost mist. I wanted to be a poet. That's why I opened the bookstore. I thought if I surrounded myself with enough good writing, some of it would rub off. It didn't. Or maybe it did and I'm just not brave enough to find out. Iris wrote nothing down. She just listened. Your turn, Owen said. My ex-husband was my creative writing professor. He told me once that I wrote about love too idealistically. That real love was messier, uglier than what I put on the page. After we divorced, I couldn't write at all. Like he'd taken the idealism with him and left nothing behind. Do you think he was right? I don't know, maybe, but I'd rather write idealistic love than no love at all. They sat in silence. The cafe hummed around them. Other couples talked and laughed and leaned close. Iris watched them from the corner of her eye. She used to know how to do that, lean close. Now the distance felt permanent, a width she couldn't cross. Owen cleared his throat. So what happens now? We finish our coffee. We talk. We see what it feels like to sit across from each other without an agenda. We have an agenda. It's literally written in a contract. Then we see what it feels like to pretend we don't. Owen picked up his cup. To pretending. Iris raised hers. To pretending. They drank. Outside, the rain grew heavier. People hurried past with umbrellas. The streetlights came on early. Owen asked about her books. She asked about his store. They talked for an hour. Nothing profound. Just the small exchanges that build the foundation of knowing someone. Favorite books. Worst jobs. The year they both moved to Portland and why. When they finally stood to leave, Iris realized she hadn't thought about the contract once in the last 30 minutes. Iris walked Owen to his car after dinner. The rain had softened to mist. Streetlights glowed amber through the haze. They walked slowly. Neither spoke. It wasn't uncomfortable, just new. At his car, Owen stopped. So, date 1. How'd I do? You showed up. That's the important part. I'll try to exceed expectations next time. Don't. I need authentic, not performative. He unlocked the car but didn't get in. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you really doing this? Iris considered lying, considered the easy answer about deadlines and contracts. But something in the way he asked made her tell the truth. Because I'm afraid if I don't figure out how to write love again, I'll forget how to feel it. And I don't want to be that person, the one who watches life instead of living it. Owen nodded slowly. I get that. Do you? I spent 7 years building something I thought would matter. Now it's dying and I can't stop it. Every day I open the store and pretend it's fine. Smile at customers, recommend books, act like the numbers aren't bleeding red. This? He gestured between them. At least with this I know it's pretend from the start. That's almost honest. Iris hadn't expected that, the rawness of it. She didn't write it down, didn't file it away for later. She just stood there in the mist and let his words exist without turning them into material. A car passed, headlights cutting through the fog. Someone laughed in the distance. The city moved around them, indifferent to their small transaction. Same time next week? She said finally. Same time. He got in the car. She watched him drive away, taillights fading into the mist. Then she walked to her own car 3 blocks over. She sat in the driver's seat with the engine off. The windshield fogged slowly. She pulled out her phone and opened her notes app. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. But instead of typing observations, she stared at the blank screen. Then she closed the app and drove home. When she got to her apartment, she made tea she didn't drink. She stood at the window looking down at the street. A couple walked past holding hands under one umbrella. She watched until they turned the corner. Then she sat at her desk and opened her laptop. Owen sat in his apartment above the bookstore. The place was small. 1 bedroom, a kitchen with barely enough room to turn around, a bathroom where the shower dripped no matter how tight he turned the handle. But the rent was cheap, and the commute was just a flight of stairs. He opened his laptop. A blank document stared back. He'd been working on a poem for 3 months. It was about loss, or memory, or the space between wanting something and having it. He wasn't sure anymore. The words had stopped coming weeks ago. He read what he'd written. 12 lines. They felt hollow, empty shells of what he'd meant to say. He thought about Iris, the way she'd looked at him when he'd admitted he wasn't brave enough to find out if his poems were any good. She hadn't offered empty encouragement, hadn't said he should just go for it or follow his dreams, or any of the platitudes people offered when they didn't know what else to say. She just listened. He appreciated that more than she probably knew. $5,000, half already deposited. He'd checked his account 3 times to make sure it was real. It was. Tomorrow he'd pay the landlord, buy himself 2 more months, maybe run an event, a reading, something to bring people in, Something to remind the neighborhood that bookstores still mattered. His phone buzzed. His sister. He let it ring. She left a voicemail. He didn't listen to it. He knew what it would say. The same thing it always said. I need help. Can you send money? I'll pay you back. She never did. But family was family, and he was tired of being the responsible one. Just once he wanted someone else to figure it out. Instead, he closed the poem document and opened a new one. He titled it Observations. Then he wrote, Date 1. She drinks her coffee black. She doesn't make eye contact when she talks about her ex. She's scared of something she won't name. Her hands shake slightly when she's nervous. She noticed the handwritten cards in the store. Most people don't. I don't think this is about the book. Or maybe it is, and she doesn't know it yet. He stopped, read it back, deleted the last two sentences. It felt like a betrayal of the contract. This was research, not reality. He needed to remember that. The money was real. The dates were performance. The ending was already written. 6 weeks and done. But when he closed the laptop and lay in bed, he thought about the way Iris had said, to pretending, like she was apologizing for something she hadn't done yet. 6 weeks, he thought. He could do 6 weeks. Keep it professional. Keep it transactional. Take the money and save his store and walk away clean. The shower dripped in the bathroom. The street light outside cast shadows on the ceiling. He closed his eyes and tried not to think about the way she'd looked when she admitted she was afraid of forgetting how to feel. Across town, Iris sat at her desk. The cursor blinked on the screen. She opened a new document, titled it Chapter 1. And for the first time in 8 months, she began to write. The words came slow, clumsy, awkward like learning to walk after an injury. But they came. She wrote about a woman who'd forgotten how to feel, and a man who'd forgotten how to try. She wrote about rain and bookstores and contracts that promised nothing but time. She wrote about distance and the space between people, and whether it could be crossed deliberately or only by accident. When she finally stopped, her hands cramped. Her eyes burned. The tea had gone cold hours ago. She'd written 2,000 words. It wasn't good. The sentences were rough, the dialogue flat, the descriptions obvious. But it was something. The cursor blinked at the end of the last sentence, like it was waiting for more. She saved the document, backed it up, then closed the laptop. Tomorrow was date 2. She'd outlined it already. A walk through Powell's City of Books, surrounded by stories written by people who'd figured out how to say what she couldn't. Maybe one of them would show her how this one ended. She hoped it wouldn't end badly, for Owen's sake. Or maybe for hers. She wasn't sure which scared her more. Outside, the rain continued. The city slept. And somewhere between her apartment and his, the distance felt a little less permanent than it had that morning. Powell's City of Books stretched across an entire block. Iris met Owen at the entrance on a Saturday morning. The sky was overcast, but the rain had paused. A temporary truce. Date 2, Owen said. Bookstore wandering. Seemed appropriate. They pushed through the doors into the cathedral of paper. The smell hit them. Ink, old pages, the faint must of thousands of stories pressed between covers. Powell's was organized by color-coded rooms. Blue for literary fiction, red for romance, green for science fiction, orange for nonfiction. They stood in the central atrium, surrounded by towers of books reaching toward the ceiling. Where to first? Owen asked. You choose. He led her to the gold room. Rare books, first editions behind glass. They walked slowly past the cases. Owen stopped at a display of early Hemingway. I saved up for 3 months to buy a first edition of The Sun Also Rises when I was 22. It was stupid. I couldn't afford it, but I wanted something permanent, something that mattered. Do you still have it? Sold it last year when the store started bleeding money. He didn't look at her when he said it, just kept walking. Iris wanted to say something comforting, but comfort felt like a lie, so she said nothing. They moved to the blue room, literary fiction. Owen pulled a book from the shelf at random, opened it to the middle, read a passage silently, then returned it. My dad used to do that. Open books to random pages. Said you could tell the quality of writing by whether a single page could stand alone. Could it? This one? Yeah. Iris tried it. Pulled down a novel with a worn spine. Opened to page 147. Read about a woman standing at a bus stop realizing her marriage was over. The prose was clean, efficient, true. She closed the book. You're right. They wandered for 2 hours, through poetry, through history, through the cookbook section where Owen admitted he couldn't cook anything more complex than pasta, through travel guides where Iris confessed she'd never left the country, through the romance section where they both fell silent, surrounded by hundreds of versions of the thing she was trying to remember how to write. Finally, they found themselves in the Red Room Cafe. They ordered coffee and sat at a small table by the window. Outside, people passed with shopping bags full of books. Owen watched them. Do you miss it? Iris asked. When reading was just reading? Before you had to think about it as a business? Every day, he turned back to her. Do you miss writing before it became something you had to do? I don't remember what that felt like anymore. They sat with that admission between them. The cafe hummed with conversation. A child laughed somewhere. The espresso machine hissed. Normal sounds of normal lives. Owen's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, silenced it. Your sister? Iris asked. He looked surprised. How did you? You mentioned her when we signed the contract. You get a certain look when your phone rings. What kind of look? Tired, but obligated. He laughed quietly. That's accurate. He pocketed the phone. She needs money, again. I don't have it, again, but I'll probably figure something out, again. You don't have to. She's family. Family can take care of themselves. In theory. He finished his coffee. Should we keep walking, or is this enough material for date 2? Iris realized she hadn't taken a single note, hadn't observed with clinical distance. She'd just been here, present, talking to someone who understood what it felt like to love something that didn't love you back. This is good, she said. Outside, the rain started again. Date 3 happened on a Wednesday evening. Iris had scheduled it as cooking together. The outline called for collaborative activity, shared space, the kind of comfortable domesticity that built intimacy. Owen arrived at her apartment with groceries. I warned you I can't cook. Then we'll learn together. Her kitchen was small but organized. Cookbooks lined one shelf, all unread. Wedding gifts from a marriage that ended before she'd made it through the first recipe. She pulled one down at random, Italian. They decided on pasta carbonara. Owen read the recipe aloud while Iris measured ingredients. He cracked eggs, she grated cheese. They worked in a rhythm that surprised them both. When the pasta boiled over, they both reached for the pot at the same time. Their hands collided. They laughed. It felt almost real. Tell me about your ex-husband, Owen said while stirring the sauce. Marcus, right? Iris paused. What do you want to know? Why it ended? She set down the cheese grater. He was my professor. I was 23. He was 36. I thought the age gap meant he was wiser. Turned out it just meant he was older. She picked up a knife, started chopping basil. He loved the idea of me, the talented student, the protege. But when I started succeeding on my own terms, writing books he didn't approve of, it shifted something. He wanted to shape me. I wanted to be myself. So you left? He did. Said I'd become someone he didn't recognize. I think he meant it as an insult. I tried to take it as a compliment. Owen was quiet for a moment. Did it work? Taking it as a compliment? Yeah. No. I just felt lost. The pasta was ready. They plated it, sat at her small table by the window. The carbonara was mediocre. Too much pepper, not enough salt. They ate it anyway. Your turn, Iris said. Tell me something real. Owen set down his fork. I've never been in love, not really. I've dated, had relationships. But that thing you write about in your books, that feeling of being unmade by someone, I don't think I've felt it. Do you want to? I'm not sure. It seems terrifying. It is. But you write about it like it's worth the terror. I used to believe that. And now? Iris looked down at her plate. Now I'm not sure what I believe. They finished eating in silence. Owen helped her wash dishes. They stood side by side at the sink, him washing, her drying. It was painfully domestic, painfully normal. When they finished, Owen dried his hands and checked the time. I should go. Early morning tomorrow. Iris walked him to the door. Thank you. For tonight. For failing at pasta. For showing up. He paused in the doorway. Iris, can I ask you something? Are you taking notes? Mentally, I mean. When we're together, are you filing this away for the book? She wanted to lie, but the contract was built on honesty, even if everything else was pretend. I try not to, but yes, sometimes. I'm sorry. Owen nodded slowly. Don't apologize. It's the agreement. I just wanted to know if what feels real to me feels like research to you. It's both, she admitted. I don't know how to separate them anymore. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he left. Iris closed the door and leaned against it. Her apartment felt emptier than it had an hour ago. She didn't open her laptop that night. She just stood at the window and watched the lights across the street until they went dark, one by one. Iris wrote through the night. Not about Owen, not about the dates, just writing. The words came faster now, less careful, more honest. She wrote about a woman who'd built walls so high she couldn't see over them anymore. A man who'd learned to expect disappointment so thoroughly he'd stopped hoping for anything else. She wrote about the space between wanting and having, about the difference between observing love and living it. When dawn light crept through the window, she had 5,000 words, rough, unpolished, but alive in a way nothing had been in months. She made coffee, sat at her desk, read back through what she'd written. It was raw, vulnerable, the kind of writing Marcus had called too much, the kind that exposed more than it should. She saved the document. Then she opened her email. A message from her publisher. Subject line, check-in. She opened it. Iris, hope you're well. Just wanted to touch base on the manuscript. We're excited to see what you're working on. December 15th still works for delivery, correct? Let me know if you need anything. Best, Rebecca. December 15th, 4 weeks away. She'd written 7,000 words in 3 weeks. She needed at least 60,000 for a complete manuscript, maybe 70. The math didn't work, not yet, but it was closer than it had been. She replied, still on track, talk soon. Then she closed the laptop and slept for 3 hours on the couch. When she woke, her phone had a text from Owen. Sister showed up at the store today, saw the deposit in my account, asked questions. Didn't tell her, but it was close. Iris stared at the message. The contract had an NDA, but family was different. Family asked questions that came with obligation. She typed back, I'm sorry, do you want to pause? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, no, let's keep going. She set the phone down. Outside, the afternoon was gray and cold. November in Portland. The season of rain that never quite stopped. She thought about Owen in his bookstore, navigating his sister's questions, protecting a secret that was fundamentally a business transaction, but felt like something more complicated. She opened her laptop again, went back to the manuscript. The cursor blinked at the end of the last sentence. She began to type. Date 4 was dinner at Owen's apartment, his turn to cook. Iris climbed the narrow stairs to the second floor. He answered the door in jeans and a sweater, flour on his hands. I'm attempting pizza, he said. Lower your expectations accordingly. His apartment was smaller than hers. but it felt lived in. Books stacked on every surface. A record player in the corner with crates of vinyl underneath. Plants on the windowsill, succulents mostly, things that survived neglect. The kitchen was barely big enough for one person, let alone two. "Can I help?" Iris asked. "You can keep me company while I fail." She sat at the small counter that separated the kitchen from the living space. Owen rolled out dough with more determination than skill. He'd made sauce from scratch. Tomatoes, garlic, basil. The smell filled the small space. "Tell me about the poetry you don't write," Iris said. Owen didn't look up from the dough. "What about it? Why you stopped?" He was quiet for a moment. "I didn't stop. I just never started. Not really. I have notebooks full of half-finished things, fragments, ideas that sounded profound at 2 in the morning and embarrassing by dawn. Can I read them? Absolutely not. Why? Because they're terrible. How do you know if no one's read them?" Owen stopped rolling. He looked at her. "Have you shown anyone your new manuscript?" "No." "Why not?" "Because it might be terrible." He smiled. "Exactly." The pizza went into the oven. They sat on the couch while it cooked. Owen put on a record. Miles Davis. Kinda Blue. The music filled the spaces where conversation might have been. Iris looked around the apartment. A life built from books and music and quiet solitude. Not so different from her own. "Do you get lonely?" she asked. "Sometimes. You?" "All the time. Even when Marcus was there?" "Especially then." The timer beeped. Owen pulled the pizza out. It was lopsided and slightly burnt on one side. They ate it anyway. It was better than the carbonara. They sat cross-legged on the floor with the pizza box between them and talked about nothing important. Favorite movies, worst concerts, the year they'd both briefly considered moving to New York and didn't. When Iris left, it was past midnight. Owen walked her down to the street. The bookstore was dark below them. A closed sign hung in the window. "Thank you for tonight," Iris said. "Even though the pizza was bad?" "It wasn't that bad." "It was pretty bad," she smiled. "Okay, it was bad, but the company was good." Owen's expression shifted. Something in his eyes changed. "Iris, this arrangement, the dates, the contract, it's supposed to be research, right?" "Right. Then why doesn't it feel like it anymore?" Iris didn't have an answer. Or she did, and it scared her. "I don't know." He nodded slowly. "Me neither." She walked to her car. He watched from the sidewalk until she drove away. When she got home, she didn't write. She just sat in the dark and wondered when observation had turned into participation. Owen found the notebook by accident. He'd been looking for a receipt in Iris's bag. She'd asked him to find it while she was in the restroom during date 5, a museum visit. The notebook was underneath, leather-bound, her name embossed on the cover. He shouldn't have opened it, but he did. The pages were filled with notes, observations, not about art or museums, about him. Owen looks away when talking about failure, protects something soft underneath. Hands move when he's passionate about a topic, still otherwise. Mentioned his father twice, both times past tense. Didn't elaborate. Laughs more when he thinks no one is watching. Page after page, dated, detailed, clinical. He was a specimen, a character study. The notebook even said so at the top of the first page. Character study. Oh. He closed it quickly, put it back. When Iris returned, he said nothing. They finished the museum visit. He was quieter than usual, she noticed. "You okay?" she asked. "Fine, just tired." They left early. In the parking lot, Owen stopped walking. "I found your notebook." Iris froze. "Owen?" "Character study. Oh, that's me, right?" "It's research. That's the agreement." "I know. You told me that from the start. I don't know why I'm surprised." He looked at her. "But seeing it written down." Seeing myself reduced to observations. It feels different than knowing it intellectually. I'm sorry. Don't be. This is what I signed up for. This is why you're paying me. He unlocked his car. I'll see you next week. Owen, wait. But he was already in the car, already pulling away. Iris stood in the parking lot alone. The notebook felt heavy in her bag. She pulled it out, flipped through the pages. He was right. It was clinical, detached, the kind of notes an anthropologist might make studying a foreign culture. When had she stopped seeing him as a person and started seeing him as material? Or worse, when had she started seeing him as a person despite trying to keep him as material? She drove home, sat at her desk, opened the manuscript. The character based on Owen was starting to take shape. Bookish, quiet, carrying something heavy he wouldn't name. But the character felt hollow, because she was writing around the truth instead of into it. The truth was, she liked him, actually liked him. Not as research, not as material, just as someone she wanted to talk to, someone whose company made her apartment feel less empty. But the contract didn't have room for that. She closed the laptop without writing anything new. Date 6 was supposed to be a walk in Forest Park. The outline called for nature, open space, relaxed conversation. But when Owen arrived at the trailhead, Iris could see the tension in his shoulders. They walked in silence for the first 10 minutes. Trees towered overhead, ferns lined the path. The air smelled like wet earth and cedar. Finally, Owen spoke. "I'm not mad about the notebook. You should be." "I'm not. I agreed to this. I knew what it meant." He stepped over a fallen branch. "But I need to say something, and I need you to listen without explaining or apologizing. Okay? When we're together, I forget sometimes that this is a transaction. You're easy to talk to. You ask good questions. You actually listen instead of waiting for your turn to speak. And I know that's probably part of your process, learning how people work so you can write them better. But it feels real, and that's my problem, not yours. I shouldn't have let myself forget the terms." Iris wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she forgot too, that the notebook was her way of maintaining distance because without it, she'd get lost in something that had an expiration date. But he'd asked her to listen, so she did. They walked for an hour. The conversation stayed surface level. Books, weather, safe topics. When they returned to the parking lot, Owen said, "I think we should take a break. Skip a week. We're on a timeline, only 6 weeks total." "I know, but I need space to remember what this is." Iris nodded. "Okay." He drove away without the usual small talk, without the easy goodbye they'd developed. Iris sat in her car and watched the forest. The trees didn't care about human complications. They just grew, season after season, indifferent to the dramas beneath them. She pulled out her phone, texted Vera. "I think I'm making a mistake." Vera replied immediately. "With the book or the boy?" "Both," Iris typed, then deleted it. "I don't know," she sent instead. 3 dots. Then, "Come to my office tomorrow. We'll talk." Fine. Iris didn't write for 3 days. She tried, sat at her desk, opened the manuscript, stared at the cursor, but the words wouldn't come. The well had run dry again. On the 4th day, she went to Vera's office. Her agent took one look at her and sighed. "You're falling for him." "I'm not." "Iris, I've known you for 10 years. You have a tell when you're lying. Your left eye twitches. It's twitching right now." Iris sat down. "It doesn't matter. The contract ends in 3 weeks. Then it's over." "Is that what you want?" "It's what's supposed to happen." "That's not what I asked." Iris looked out the window. The square below was busy, people moving through their lives. "I don't know what I want. I know what the plan was. Finish the book, end the arrangement, move on. But somewhere between the first date and now, something's shifted." "Does he know?" "I don't think so. Or maybe he does. We haven't talked about it. We can't. It violates the terms." Vera leaned back in her chair. You built a contract to protect yourself from exactly this, from feeling something real, and now you're upset that it's working. I'm not upset, Iris stopped. I'm scared. If I let myself feel this, and it goes wrong, I don't know if I can write myself out of that hole again. And if you don't let yourself feel it, then I finish the book, deliver the manuscript, save my career, and lose something real. It's not real, it's research. Iris, Vera's voice was gentle. Do you believe that? Iris didn't answer, because the truth was, no. It hadn't felt like research since date 2, maybe since date 1. But admitting that meant admitting she'd broken the one rule that made the whole arrangement possible. Don't get attached. She left Vera's office without resolution, drove to Hastings and Company even though it wasn't a scheduled date day. The store was open. A few customers browsed the aisles. Owen stood behind the counter, helping someone. He looked up when the bell chimed, saw her. Something crossed his face. Surprise, maybe hope. She waited until the customer left. Then she walked to the counter. I can't stop thinking about the notebook, she said. Iris, let me finish. I wrote those notes because I was trying to keep distance, trying to turn you into a character instead of a person. Because if you stayed a character, I could control the narrative. But you stopped being a character somewhere around date 3, and now I don't know how to do this anymore. Owen was quiet for a long moment. What are you saying? I'm saying the contract was a bad idea. Not because it didn't work, because it worked too well. But you needed it for the book. I know. And you're still blocked without the dates? I don't know. I haven't tried. A customer entered. The bell chimed. Owen glanced over, then back at Iris. Can we talk about this later? After closing? When? 7. Come to the apartment. She nodded. Left before she could say anything else that would complicate things further. Outside, the rain had started again. She sat in her car and watched water streak down the windshield. What was she doing? The book needed the structure, the dates, the observations. Without them, she'd be back where she started, blocked, empty, unable to write. But continuing felt like lying, to Owen, to herself. She drove home, didn't write, just paced her apartment until it was time to go back. Owen's apartment felt different at night, warmer, more intimate. He'd made tea. They sat on the couch, mugs in hand, not drinking. I need to tell you something, Owen said, and I need you to not interrupt until I'm done. Okay. When I signed the contract, I thought this was simple. You needed material. I needed money. Transaction complete. But it's not simple anymore. I look forward to the dates. I think about what we'll talk about. I rehearse things to tell you. And I know that makes me pathetic because you're literally paying me to be there. But I can't help it. He set down his mug. I like you. Not character study you. Real you. Iris felt her chest tighten. Owen, I'm not done. You don't have to reciprocate. You don't have to do anything with this information. But I needed to say it, because pretending is starting to hurt more than honesty. The silence that followed was thick. Iris set down her own mug. I like you too. That's the problem. How is that a problem? Because this was supposed to be research, clinical, boundaried. If it becomes real, I lose the structure. And without the structure, I don't know if I can finish the book. So you'd rather keep pretending? I'd rather not hurt you when this ends. It's going to hurt either way. Owen leaned forward. At least if it's real, the hurt means something. Iris wanted to argue, wanted to explain why she'd built the contract the way she had, why she needed distance, why feeling things fully had always ended in disaster. But looking at Owen, at the way he was trying so hard to be brave about something she'd asked him to feel, but also not feel, she couldn't. I don't know how to do this without rules, she said quietly. Neither do I, but we could figure it out. What if we can't? Then we fail together instead of alone. Iris looked at him, really looked, saw the person beneath the character study. The man who'd signed a contract because he was desperate, but stayed because he wanted to. Who'd let her observe him like a specimen, but had been observing her right back. "What do we do?" she asked. "We could tear up the contract. Then I don't finish the book. Or you finish it differently." "How?" "By writing something true instead of something safe." Iris felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. "I'm scared." "Me too." They sat in the quiet. The rain against the window provided rhythm. Finally, Iris said, "Can we finish the 12 dates? See where we are at the end? But without the rules? Without pretending we don't feel what we feel?" Owen considered this. "What about the book?" "I'll figure it out." He reached across the space between them, took her hand. It was the first time they'd touched outside the scripted moments of the dates. His palm was warm, solid, real. "Okay," he said, "let's finish it." Date 7 felt different. They met at Powell's again, but this time they didn't wander separately. They walked close. Sometimes their shoulders brushed. Neither moved away. They found themselves in the poetry section. Owen pulled down a collection. "Can I read you something?" "Please." He opened to a marked page, read aloud. The poem was about distance, about two people in the same room who couldn't reach each other. When he finished, he closed the book. "I marked that 3 years ago. It felt true then. Feels different now." "How?" "Now I think distance is a choice, something you maintain because it's safer than closeness." Iris took the book from him, read the poem again silently. He was right. The distance wasn't circumstantial. It was built, cultivated, protected. They bought coffee from the cafe, sat in the same spot as date 2, but instead of careful questions and measured responses, they talked freely. About fear. About what it meant to want something you were certain you'd ruin. About the gap between the life you planned and the life that happened. "My ex-husband told me I romanticized everything," Iris said. "Made ordinary things significant. He meant it as a criticism." "Is it?" "I used to think so. Now I'm not sure. Maybe making things significant is just another word for paying attention." "I think that's what writers do. What good ones do, anyway. They pay attention to the things everyone else misses." "Do you still write poetry?" "No, I just collect other people's now. Safer that way." "Safer than what?" "Than trying and confirming I'm not good enough." Iris wanted to tell him he was probably better than he thought, but empty encouragement wouldn't help. So instead she said, "Will you show me sometime? Not now, but someday?" Owen looked surprised. "Maybe." "That's more than no." They left as the bookstore was closing, walked slowly to their cars. The parking lot was nearly empty. Under the streetlights, Owen stopped. "Can I try something?" he asked. "What?" "This." He kissed her, soft, brief, a question more than a statement. When he pulled back, he searched her face. "Was that okay?" Iris's heart was racing. "Yes." The contract said brief kisses were allowed if contextually appropriate. "This feels contextually appropriate," he smiled. Kissed her again. Less brief this time. When they finally separated, Iris felt unsteady. Not from the kiss, from the realization that she'd been waiting for it since date 3 and hadn't let herself admit it. "I should go," Owen said, though he didn't move. "You should. I'll see you Friday? Date 8? Friday. She watched him drive away, then sat in her car with her hands on the steering wheel, trying to remember how to breathe normally. When she got home, she opened her laptop. The manuscript sat there. 40,000 words now. She read through the last chapter. The character based on Owen felt more real than he had before, because she was writing from inside the experience instead of outside it. She started a new chapter, wrote until dawn. When she finally stopped, she had another 5,000 words. The story was taking shape, but it was messier than she'd planned. Less structured, more honest. She saved the document, fell asleep at her desk, and dreamed of bookstores and rain and someone's hand in hers. Owen stared at the bank statement. The second half of the payment had arrived. $2,500, right on schedule. He should have felt relieved. The money bought him another month, maybe two if he was careful. Instead, he felt sick, because the money meant the contract was still active. The dates were still transactions. And last night's kiss, the kiss that had kept him awake until dawn, was technically part of the arrangement. Contextually appropriate, Iris had said. He'd meant it as real. But maybe for her, it was still research, still observation. He picked up his phone, started typing a message to Iris, deleted it, started again, deleted again. What could he say? That he was falling for her but couldn't tell if she was falling back or just writing better? That every genuine moment felt tainted by the question of whether it was material? His sister called. He almost didn't answer, but habit won out. Owen, finally, I've been trying to reach you for days. I've been busy. Too busy for family? She didn't wait for an answer. I need to talk to you about something. Can you meet me for coffee? When? Today. It's important. Everything was always important, but her voice sounded different, strained. Okay, 2 o'clock? Thank you. She hung up. Owen set the phone down, looked around his apartment. Evidence of Iris was everywhere now. The book she'd left on the coffee table, the coffee mug she'd used 3 days ago, washed but still sitting on the counter, a hair tie on the bathroom sink, small pieces of her life mixing with his. He needed to decide. Keep going with the contract as written, finish the 12 dates, take the money and walk away clean. Or tell her the truth, that he couldn't separate the real from the performance anymore, that he wanted more than 6 weeks, that the thought of this ending made everything feel pointless. But telling her risked losing both the money and the connection. Staying silent risked losing himself. His phone buzzed, a text from Iris. Thank you for last night. I keep thinking about it. He typed back, me too. Then, can we talk? Before date 8? 3 dots appeared immediately. Yes. When? Tonight? Yes, my place. 7? He confirmed. Set down the phone, opened his laptop. The poem he'd been working on for 3 months stared back at him. Still 12 lines, still incomplete. He read them again. They were about loneliness, about building walls, about safety versus joy. He added a 13th line. But what if safety was just fear in a better suit? Then he closed the laptop and went downstairs to open the store. Iris's apartment felt too warm when Owen arrived. Or maybe that was just nervousness. She'd made tea neither of them would drink. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. I got the second payment, Owen said. Oh, right, that was scheduled. Yeah, he turned the mug in his hands. It made me realize we're more than halfway through. 3 weeks left. I know. And I need to ask you something, but I'm afraid of the answer. Iris's heart was racing. Ask. When you kiss me, is it real or is it research? The questions sat between them, honest, raw, the kind that required an answer equally honest. It's real, Iris said quietly. I wish it wasn't. It would be easier if it was just research. But it's real. Owen set down his mug. Then what are we doing? I don't know. The contract ends in 3 weeks. The book is due 2 days after that. I'm 45,000 words in, and I don't know how it ends yet. The book or us? Both. Owen leaned forward. I need to tell you something about why I agreed to this. It wasn't just the money. What do you mean? I read your books, all of them. The second one, The Second Goodbye, I read it during the worst year of my life. My dad had just died. The store was failing. I felt like I was drowning. And your book reminded me that people survive endings, that there's life after loss. He looked at her. When you walked into my store and asked me to help you write again, part of me thought maybe I could repay that, give back what you'd given me. Iris felt tears prick her eyes. Owen, I'm not done. The other part of me, the part I didn't admit, thought maybe if I spent time with you, I'd figure out how you did it, how you wrote about love like it was possible, because I'd stopped believing it was. For me, anyway. He reached across the space between them, took her hand. But being with you hasn't taught me how you write love. It's taught me what love might feel like. A tear slipped down Iris's cheek. I don't know how to do this without ruining it. Neither do I, but I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. What if I can't finish the book without the structure? Then you don't finish it. You write something else, something true. And what if what's true is that I'm terrified, that every time I let someone close, they leave or I push them away, and I don't know how to stop that pattern? Owen squeezed her hand. Then we deal with that together, but we don't decide it's impossible before we try. Iris looked at him, at his hopeful, nervous face, at the way he was trying so hard to be brave about something that scared him too, and she realized Marcus had been wrong. Love wasn't less than what she wrote. It was more. Messier, scarier, but more. What do we do about the contract? She asked. We tear it up. Then I owe you money. I don't want your money. Not anymore. Owen, your store, will fail or won't on its own terms. Not because I sold my time to someone I'm falling for. Falling for. The words hung in the air between them. Iris felt her breath catch. You're falling for me? Yeah, have been since date 4, maybe before. She moved closer, took his face in her hands. I'm falling for you too, and it's terrifying. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? I don't know yet. He kissed her, different from the parking lot, deeper, less careful. When they pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. So what now? Owen asked. We finished the last 5 dates, not because of a contract, because we want to. And the book? I figure it out. Write what's true instead of what's safe. What if true is messy? Then it's messy. They sat together on the couch until midnight, talking, kissing, not performing, just being. When Owen finally left, Iris stood at the door for a long time. Then she went to her desk, opened the manuscript, and deleted the endings she'd written. Started over. This time, she didn't know where it was going. But that felt right, more honest. She wrote until dawn, and for the first time in 8 months, the words felt like flying. Date 8 never happened. Not officially. Owen's sisters showed up at the bookstore unannounced. Iris had come to meet him, but when she walked in, she saw them arguing. The sister's voice was raised. Owen's face was tight. Iris turned to leave. Wait, the sister called out. She looked at Iris. You're her, the writer. Iris froze. I should go. No, stay. Owen's sister, her name was Claire, crossed her arms. I want to know what kind of person pays my brother to fake date her. Claire, stop, Owen started. No, you won't tell me what's going on, so I'll ask her. Is it true? Did you hire him? Iris looked at Owen. He looked devastated. She turned to Claire. Yes, originally, but it's not like that anymore. Originally? So you're not paying him now? The contract is finished. But you did pay him, while he was helping you with your little writing project. It wasn't like that. What was it like then? Because from where I'm standing, you exploited my brother's financial desperation for your career. And now you're what? Dating him for real? How convenient. Claire, that's enough, Owen said. Is it? You wouldn't help me when I needed money for Tyler's tuition, but you took money from her to play boyfriend? I didn't take money instead of helping you. I took money because I didn't have any to give you. Because you're drowning this stupid store that's never going to succeed. Enough. The word came out harder than Iris had ever heard Owen speak. Claire stopped. Owen looked at his sister with something like exhaustion. You don't get to come into my store and tell me my life is stupid. You don't get to judge my choices when I've spent the last 5 years bailing you out of yours. I love you, but I'm done being the person you call when you need something and ignore when you don't. Claire's face crumpled. Owen, I need you to leave, please. She looked at Iris, then back at Owen. Then she left. The bell chimed behind her. The store fell silent. Iris didn't know what to say. Owen walked to the door, flipped the sign to closed, and locked it. Then he sat on the floor with his back against the counter, put his head in his hands. Iris sat beside him, didn't touch him, just sat. I'm sorry, he said finally. For what? For that, for her finding out, for the mess. You don't have to apologize. I told her about the contract last week. She asked about the money in my account and I caved. I thought if I explained, she'd understand. Instead, she's been stewing on it for days. What did you tell her? That it started as a transaction but became something real. She didn't believe the second part. Iris took his hand. Do you believe it? He looked at her. Yes. Do you? Yes. They sat on the floor of the empty bookstore for an hour. Finally, Owen said, I don't think I can keep the store open. What? It's dying. Has been for years. I've been fighting it because I didn't want to admit failure. But the money you paid me? It bought me 2 months. That's it. Then I'm back where I started. And I'm tired of pretending it's going to magically turn around. What will you do? I don't know. Find a job. Move somewhere cheaper. Start over. Where? I haven't thought that far ahead. Iris's chest tightened. Owen, if you leave Portland, I know. We just figured this out. Us. I know. They sat with that, the fragile thing between them already facing its first real test. Don't decide now, Iris said. Wait, see what happens. Maybe something will change. Like what? I don't know, but don't give up yet. He nodded, but his face said he'd already given up. Just hadn't admitted it out loud. Iris went home and opened her laptop. The manuscript sat at 55,000 words. She read through the last chapter. It was about hope, about two people finding each other against odds, about love being worth the risk. But real life wasn't playing out that way. Real life was messier, harder, full of sisters who didn't understand, and stores that failed, and distances that geography could make permanent. She closed the manuscript, opened her email, composed a message to her publisher. Rebecca, I need to tell you something about the manuscript. It's not what we discussed. The story changed while I was writing it. It's rawer, more honest, less tied up with a neat bow. I don't know if it's what you want, but it's what I have. I'll still make the December 15th deadline. But I wanted you to know it might not be what you expect. Iris. She sent it before she could second guess. Then she opened a new document, titled it Proposal, and she began to write. Not a story, a plan. When she finished, it was 3 a.m. She read back through it. It was insane, financially irresponsible, built on hope rather than logic. But it was also the truest thing she'd written in months. She saved it. Then she called Vera. It's 3 a.m., Vera answered, voice thick with sleep. I need you to do something for me. Can it wait until morning? No, Vera sighed. What do you need? Iris told her. Vera was silent for a long moment. Then, this is the craziest thing you've ever asked me to do. Is that a no? It's a let me make some calls in the morning and see if it's even possible. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This might blow up spectacularly. I know. And if it works, you're buying me a very expensive dinner. Deal. Iris hung up, looked at the clock. Too late to call Owen, but she texted, I have an idea. Can we talk tomorrow? His response came immediately. Can't sleep either? No, too much to think about. Me too. I think I know how to save your bookstore. Three dots appeared. Then, how? Tomorrow. Trust me? Always. She set down the phone, looked out the window at the sleeping city. Somewhere across town, Owen was awake too. Both of them not sleeping. Both of them hoping for a future that wasn't guaranteed. But hope was something, more than she'd had 8 months ago. She went to her desk, opened the manuscript, and wrote the ending. Not the one she'd planned, the one that was true, where love didn't fix everything, but it gave people a reason to try fixing things together. When she typed the last sentence, she sat back. 60,000 words, a complete draft. Messy, imperfect, but finished. She saved it. Then she closed her laptop and went to bed. Tomorrow she'd find out if hope was enough. Iris met Owen at a coffee shop neither of them had been to before. Neutral ground. He arrived first, already had coffee waiting for her. Black, no sugar, he remembered. "So," he said, "your idea." Iris pulled out her laptop, opened a document, turned the screen toward him. "Read this." It was a proposal, detailed, numbered, a business plan for transforming Hastings & Company from a traditional bookstore into a hybrid space. Ground floor, curated book selection, smaller inventory, higher margins. Second floor, writing workshops, author events, community space rental. Basement, podcast recording studio for local creators. Owen scrolled through the financial projections, the timeline, the funding strategy. He looked up at her, "This is comprehensive. I called in favors. Vera knows investors. I have some savings from royalties. And there's a small business grant for art spaces in Portland. We could apply." "We?" "I want to invest, not as charity, as a partner. The workshop space would be mine to run. I'd teach, host events. The studio would generate rental income. The bookstore would be yours, but streamlined, focused." Owen was quiet, reading through the numbers again. This would take months to set up. 4 to 6 months according to Vera's contacts. "And you'd move your entire writing practice here?" "Not all of it, but the teaching, yes. I've been thinking about it anyway. I'm tired of writing in isolation." "What about your publisher, your deadlines?" "I finished the manuscript last night, sent it this morning. It's done." Owen looked at her, really looked. "You finished it?" 60,000 words, complete draft, messy, but complete. "And you still had time to put this together?" "I didn't sleep." He laughed, short, surprised. "Iris, this is insane." "I know. It might not work." "I know that too. And if it fails, you lose your investment. Money comes back. She gestured between them. This doesn't. Not if you leave Portland because the store closes." Owen set down his coffee, reached across the table, took both her hands. "Are you doing this to save my bookstore or to keep me here?" "Both. Is that wrong?" "No, it's just a lot." "Too much?" He smiled. "Maybe, but I think I'm in love with you, so my judgment is compromised." Iris's breath caught. "You think you're in love with me?" "Yeah, I was going to wait to say it, build up to it, but we're talking about business partnerships and financial investments, and it felt weird not to mention the part where I'm completely in love with you." Tears pricked her eyes. "That's the least romantic declaration I've ever heard." "Sorry, want me to try again with better ambiance?" "No, it's perfect." She squeezed his hands. "I love you too. Probably have since date 4, maybe before." Owen stood up, walked around the table, pulled her to her feet, kissed her in the middle of the coffee shop while other customers pretended not to watch. When they separated, he said, "Okay, let's do it. The bookstore plan. All of it." "Really?" "Really, but on one condition." "What?" "You let me read the manuscript. I know the contract said I wouldn't, but the contract is void, and I want to see what you wrote." Iris hesitated. "It's rough. First draft rough. I don't care. And it's about us, kind of, fictionalized, but still. I figured. She pulled out her phone, sent him the file. Don't read it in front of me. I can't watch. Deal. He pocketed his phone. What do we do now? We call Vera, start the process, fill out paperwork, make this real. What about the last 4 dates? We never finished the 12. We don't need to. The arrangement is over. But I want to. Not because of a contract, just because. Iris smiled. Then we'll do them. As a real couple. Doing real things. Like what? I don't know. Whatever people do when they're not researching. I have no idea what that is. Neither do I. We'll figure it out together. They left the coffee shop holding hands. It was raining again. Of course it was. This was Portland. But the rain felt different now. Less gray. More like the beginning of something instead of the ending. Vera's office was organized chaos. Papers covered every surface. Her assistant brought coffee and pastries neither of them touched. Vera looked at the proposal Iris had sent, then at Owen, then back at Iris. You want to invest $50,000 into a failing bookstore, Vera said. Yes. And you want me to help you pitch this to investors. Yes. And you're doing this because? Because it's a good investment. The numbers work. Iris, I've been your agent for 10 years. Don't bullshit me. Iris glanced at Owen. He nodded. Permission to tell the truth. Because I'm in love with him, and I don't want him to leave Portland. Vera leaned back in her chair. There it is. But it is also a good investment. The hybrid model works. There's precedent in other cities. And the workshop space gives me a revenue stream outside of publishing. What does your therapist say about this? I haven't told her yet. Of course you haven't. Vera turned to Owen. And you? What do you think about your girlfriend investing her life savings into your business? Ex-girlfriend isn't quite right. We're new, Owen said. And honestly, I think it's crazy. But I also think if anyone can make it work, it's Iris. She's the most organized person I've ever met. She once color-coded her spice rack by cuisine type, Vera said. I know, I've seen it. It's impressive. Despite herself, Vera smiled. Then she got serious. Okay, here's what I can do. I know 3 investors who focus on arts and community spaces. I can get you meetings, but you'll need a stronger financial model, more conservative projections, and a clearer timeline. I can revise it, Iris said. You'll also need legal contracts, partnership agreements. The whole structure has to be airtight. We'll hire a lawyer. Vera looked at them both. You're really doing this. We're really doing this, Owen confirmed. And if it fails, if the bookstore still goes under and you lose your investment, then I tried, Iris said. I'd rather try and fail than not try at all. Vera shook her head. You're quoting your own book at me, The Second Goodbye, Chapter 14. Is it working? Unfortunately, yes. Vera pulled out her calendar. Okay, I can get you a meeting with Marcus Chen next week. He invests in creative spaces. Loves books. Might be interested. Not that Marcus, Iris said quickly. Different Marcus. Marcus Chen, not Marcus Hayes. Your ex is Marcus Hayes. Right, sorry. Owen squeezed her hand under the table. Vera noticed. How long have you two actually been together? Really together, not contract together. 5 days, Iris said. 5 days and you're already restructuring your entire financial life around him. When you say it like that, it sounds impulsive. It is impulsive, but you've never been impulsive in your life, so maybe it's healthy. Vera closed her calendar. I'll make the calls. You two work on the revised proposal. And Iris? Yeah? Make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. Love is great, but it's not a business strategy. I know. Do you? Because 5 days ago you were paying this man to fake date you. Now you're going into business with him. That's a hell of a pivot. I know it is, but it feels right. Feelings aren't always reliable. No, but sometimes they're all you have. Vera studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll help, but if this goes sideways, don't say I didn't warn you. They left the office with homework, revised projections, timeline adjustments, legal research. Owen was quiet in the elevator down. What are you thinking? Iris asked. That your agent is right. This is crazy. Are you getting cold feet? No, the opposite. I'm terrified by how much I want this to work. He looked at her. I've spent 7 years trying to save that store alone. The idea of having a partner, of having you, it's almost too much to hope for. Then don't hope alone. Hope with me. The elevator doors opened. They stepped out into the lobby. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sun broke through the clouds. Portland in November, giving them one clear afternoon. Want to walk? Owen asked. Where? Anywhere. Nowhere, just walk. They walked for hours, through downtown, across the bridges, along the waterfront, not talking much, just being together. When they finally stopped, they were outside Hastings and Company. The store was dark, closed sign in the window. When I opened this place, I thought it would be my legacy, Owen said. Something that would outlive me. Stupid, right? Like a bookstore could be legacy. It's not stupid. It feels stupid now. Everything I built might disappear in 2 months. Or it might transform into something better. You really believe that? I'm choosing to believe it. There's a difference. Owen unlocked the door. They went inside. The store felt sacred in the dark. All those books holding all those stories, waiting for readers who might never come. I want to show you something, Owen said. He led her to the back room, storage, boxes, and a filing cabinet in the corner. He opened the bottom drawer, pulled out a notebook, handed it to her. What is this? My poems, the ones I never let anyone read. Iris held the notebook carefully. Are you sure? Yeah, if we're doing this, the business, the relationship, all of it, I don't want secrets between us. Read them. Tell me the truth. What if the truth is they're not good? Then I'll know, and I'll stop pretending I'm a poet and just be a bookseller who loves poetry. Iris opened the notebook, read the first poem, then the second. They were raw, unpolished, but honest. She read 10 pages, then looked up at Owen. They're good. You're lying. I'm not. They're rough. They need work. But Owen, there's something real here, something worth developing. He took the notebook back, flipped through pages he'd probably read 1,000 times. I stopped writing after my dad died. Couldn't find words anymore. Everything felt insufficient. When did he die? 3 years ago, heart attack. No warning. He was here one day, gone the next. I'm sorry. He believed in the bookstore more than I did. Used to tell everyone his son owned the best bookstore in Portland, even when it was barely breaking even. Owen closed the notebook. I keep thinking he'd be disappointed, that I couldn't make it work. Or he'd be proud you tried, that you built something that mattered, even if it didn't last forever. Maybe. They stood in the storage room, surrounded by boxes of books. Iris moved closer, wrapped her arms around him. He held her tight. Neither spoke. Sometimes silence said more than words could. Finally, Owen said, "Thank you." For what? For believing in this. In me, even when I don't. That's what partners do. Is that what we are? Partners? In business and everything else, if you want. I want. They locked up the store, walked to Owen's apartment, ordered takeout, spent the evening revising the proposal, working side by side at his small table, laptops open, papers spread everywhere, building something together. And for the first time since the divorce, Iris felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The meeting with Marcus Chen took place in a modern office building downtown. Glass walls, minimalist furniture, the kind of space that cost more per month than Owen's apartment cost per year. Marcus was younger than they expected, early 40s, Sharp suit, kind eyes. He reviewed their proposal while they sat in silence. When he finished, he set it down. "This is ambitious," he said. "We know," Iris replied. "The numbers are conservative, maybe too conservative. Have you considered the podcast studio could generate more revenue if you rent it to established creators, not just locals?" "We want to keep it community-focused," Owen said. "Admirable, but it limits growth potential." "We're okay with that." Marcus leaned back. "Why should I invest in a bookstore? Physical retail is dying. Amazon exists. People read on tablets now." Owen had prepared for this question. Because some things aren't about efficiency, they're about experience, connection. The bookstore isn't just selling books, it's selling belonging. A space where people can discover stories they didn't know they needed. That's a nice pitch, but belonging doesn't pay rent. No, but community does. The workshop space, the events, the studio, those create multiple revenue streams. The books are the anchor. Everything else builds around them. Marcus considered this. "Ms. Calloway, you're a successful author. Why invest in a bookstore instead of another book?" "Because writing is solitary. Teaching isn't. I want to be part of something bigger than myself. And because," she glanced at Owen, "because I believe in what this place could become." "And your personal relationship with Mr. Hastings, does that affect your judgment?" "Of course it does. But it doesn't make the business model less sound." Marcus smiled. "Fair enough." He pulled out his phone, typed something, then looked up. "I'm going to be honest with you. This is risky, very risky. Bookstores fail all the time, even good ones." "We know," Owen said, "but I like you. I like the vision, and I like that you're not promising me unrealistic returns." He stood, extended his hand. "I'll invest $30,000, not as a loan, as equity, 10% ownership. You'll need to incorporate, draw up proper contracts, all the legal stuff. But if you do that, I'm in." Iris and Owen stared at him, then at each other, then back at Marcus. "Really?" Owen asked. "Really. I'll have my lawyer draft the papers. Should take a week or two." He shook both their hands. "Don't make me regret this." They left the office in a daze, didn't speak until they were in the elevator. Then Owen turned to Iris and pulled her into a hug that lifted her off her feet. "We did it," he said. "We did it." "Holy shit, we actually did it." They laughed. The kind of laughter that comes from disbelief and relief and joy all mixed together. When they got to the street, Owen took out his phone. "I need to call my sister." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I need to tell her I'm not giving up, that I found a way forward." He dialed, waited. "Claire? It's me. Can we talk?" He walked a few steps away. Iris gave him privacy, watched him pace, watched his face go from nervous to determined to something like hopeful. When he came back, he looked lighter. "How'd it go?" Iris asked. "I told her about the investment, about you, about everything." "And?" She apologized for what she said at the store. She didn't mean it. She was scared I was being taken advantage of. Was she wrong? No, but she was also not entirely right, and I told her that. He took Iris's hand. "I also told her I couldn't keep bailing her out, that I love her but I need to focus on my own life for a while." "How'd she take it?" "Better than I expected. She said she's been relying on me too much, that she'll figure it out." "Do you believe her?" "I want to. We'll see." He kissed Iris's forehead. "Thank you." "For what?" "For giving me a reason to set boundaries. I've never been good at that." "We'll work on it together." They walked back to the bookstore. Called Vera with the news. She screamed so loud they had to hold the phone away from their ears. Then she said she'd contact Marcus's lawyer and start the incorporation process. That night, Owen and Iris sat on the floor of the bookstore with a bottle of wine and Chinese takeout. They toasted to new beginnings, to partnerships, to risks worth taking. "I need to ask you something," Owen said. "Okay." What happens when your next book is due? Will you still have time for the workshops? I'll make time. I'll have to adjust my schedule. But yeah. And what happens if we don't work out? As a couple, we'd still be business partners. Are you already planning our breakup? No, but Vera made me think about worst-case scenarios. Iris set down her wine. If we don't work out as a couple, we act like adults. We honor the business partnership. We don't let personal stuff ruin what we're building. Can people actually do that? I don't know, but we'll try. And if the bookstore still fails, even with the investment, then we tried everything we could, and we'll figure out what comes next. Owen was quiet for a moment. You're very calm about uncertainty. I'm not calm, I'm terrified, but I'm also tired of letting fear make my decisions. When did that change? Date 6, when you told me distance was a choice. I realized I'd been choosing safety over everything else for years. After Marcus, after the divorce, I just shut down. The contract was supposed to help me write again. Instead, it taught me how to feel again. So the research worked. Yeah, just not how I planned. They finished the wine, cleaned up the takeout containers. When they left, Owen locked the door and looked at the store one more time. Next time I open this door, everything will be different, he said. Different, good. I hope so. They walked to their cars, made plans for tomorrow. More paperwork, more meetings, the work of turning hope into reality. When Iris got home, she found an email from her publisher. Subject line, manuscript review. She opened it with shaking hands. Iris, read the manuscript. It's not what I expected. It's better. Raw, honest, messy in the best way. This is the book I wanted you to write, but didn't know how to ask for. A few notes attached, but overall, I love it. Let's talk cover designs next week. Congratulations, you did it. Rebecca. Iris read the email 3 times. Then she called Owen. Hey, he answered. Everything okay? My publisher loved the book. Iris, that's amazing. I know, I can't believe it. I can, you're brilliant. You haven't even read it yet. I'm reading it now. I'm on chapter 7. You're right, it's rough. But it's also the best thing I've ever read. You're biased. Completely. Doesn't make it less true. They talked until midnight. About nothing important, about everything. When they finally hung up, Iris looked around her apartment. It felt different now. Less like a place she was hiding and more like a place she lived. She opened her laptop, started a new document. Not a novel, just notes. Ideas for workshop curriculum. She'd never taught before, but she was ready to try. Outside, the rain started again. But for once, Iris didn't mind. Rain meant growth, and she was finally ready to grow. The lawyer's office smelled like leather and old money. Iris and Owen sat across from a woman named Patricia, who specialized in small business partnerships. Papers covered the table between them. Before we formalize anything, I need to make sure you understand what you're entering into, Patricia said. Business partnerships are like marriages, legally binding, difficult to exit. You're both liable for debts, decisions, everything. We understand, Iris said. Do you? Because I've seen partnerships between friends destroy relationships. Between romantic partners, even worse, money changes things. We've discussed worst-case scenarios, Owen said. Have you discussed who makes final decisions? What happens if you disagree on major expenses? What happens if one of you wants out? They looked at each other. They hadn't discussed all of that. Patricia nodded. That's what I thought. Here's what I recommend. We draft a partnership agreement with clear terms. Decision-making structure, buyout clauses, dispute resolution process. It's not romantic, but it's necessary. For the next 2 hours, they worked through details. Who owned what percentage? How profits would be distributed? What happened if the business failed? It was exhausting and unromantic and absolutely necessary. When they finally left, Owen looked drained. That was brutal, but important. I know, it just made everything feel very real. It is real. We're really doing this. They walked to a nearby park, sat on a bench, watched people jog past with dogs and strollers, and the everyday chaos of living. Are we crazy? Owen asked. Probably. My dad used to say the best decisions feel crazy at first, that if something feels too safe, it probably won't change anything. Was he right? About most things, yeah. Owen leaned back. I wish he could see this, what we're building. Tell me about him. Owen was quiet for a moment. He was a high school English teacher, loved books more than anything except my mom. When I told him I wanted to open a bookstore instead of going to grad school, he was thrilled. Helped me find the location, lent me money for the first inventory, came every day after he retired just to shelve books and talk to customers. He sounds wonderful. He was. The day he died, he was at the store, just collapsed behind the counter. Customers called 911, but it was too fast. Massive heart attack. Owen's voice cracked slightly. I found him there, in the place he loved most. Iris took his hand. I'm so sorry. Sometimes I think about closing the store because it reminds me of him. Other times I think about closing it because keeping it open reminds me I'm failing at the one thing he believed I could do. You're not failing. You're transforming. There's a difference. I hope you're right. They sat until the sun started to set, then walked back to the bookstore. Inside, Owen showed Iris where his father used to sit, a chair by the poetry section. Worn leather, too big for the space, but his dad had insisted on it. I can't get rid of it, Owen said. Probably should. It takes up valuable floor space. Don't get rid of it. Make it part of the new design. A reading chair. For customers. Yeah? Yeah, honor what he built. Don't erase it. Owen looked at the chair, then at Iris. How are you so good at this? At what? Knowing what to say. I'm a writer. Words are kind of my thing. No, it's more than that. You pay attention to what matters. Iris felt her chest tighten. So do you. That's why I love you. The words hung in the air. She'd said them in the coffee shop, but saying them here, in this space that meant everything to Owen, felt different, more permanent. I love you too, Owen said. Even though we've only been together for a week, and this is probably too fast, and we're making huge life decisions based on feelings that might not last. They'll last. How do you know? I don't, but I'm choosing to believe they will. Same as the bookstore, same as the book, just choosing to believe. Owen pulled her close, kissed her slowly. When they separated, he said, Okay, let's believe together. 2 weeks later, the incorporation papers were filed. Hastings and Company officially became Hastings and Callaway Books. They celebrated with champagne in the empty store. Vera came, Marcus Chen came, even Claire came, tentatively, with an apology and a houseplant. I was wrong, Claire said to Iris, about you, about this. Owen's happier than I've seen him in years. Thank you for saying that. And I'm sorry for what I said before. It's okay. You were protecting your brother. Still, I was a bitch. Claire handed Owen the plant. For the new space, when you renovate. Owen hugged his sister, long and tight. When he let go, Claire was crying. I'm proud of you, she said. Thanks, Claire. The renovation plans were approved. Construction would start in January. They'd close for 6 weeks to transform the space. In the meantime, Owen had started reaching out to local authors about teaching workshops. Iris had designed a curriculum, Introduction to Fiction, Memoir Writing, Poetry Basics. The response was overwhelming. 20 people signed up for the first fiction workshop before they'd even officially announced it. People want this, Iris said, looking at the registration list. They want you, Owen corrected. You're the best-selling author. I'm just the guy with the space. You're the guy with the vision. I'm just helping execute it. They worked late into the night most days, planning, organizing, dreaming out loud. It was exhausting and exhilarating and exactly what Iris needed. Her manuscript was in production. Cover designs were being drafted. Release dates set for next fall. The title had been finalized, The Performance, about a writer who hires someone to teach her how to feel again and learns that love can't be scripted. Rebecca had asked if it was autobiographical. Iris had said yes and no. The bones were true, the details were fiction. The emotions were somewhere in between. Owen had finally finished reading it. He called her at 2 in the morning when he reached the ending. "You changed the ending," he said. "I did. It's not happy. It's hopeful. There's a difference. The characters don't end up together. They end up better. That's more important." He was quiet for a moment. "Is that what you think will happen to us?" "No, I think we'll end up together and better." But the characters needed a different ending, one that honored their growth without promising guarantees. I liked it, even though it hurt. Good hurt or bad hurt? The kind that feels true. That was 3 days ago. Now they were standing in the bookstore at midnight, drinking champagne, surrounded by people who believed in their vision. Vera raised her glass. "To Iris and Owen, for being crazy enough to think love and business could mix." "To crazy," Marcus added. "To new beginnings," Claire said. They drank. Then Vera pulled Iris aside. "How are you really doing?" Vera asked quietly. "Honestly, terrified, excited, exhausted, all of it. And the relationship, still good?" "Better than good. I'm glad. You deserve this." "Do I?" "Yes, you spent years in a relationship that dimmed your light. Marcus made you smaller. Owen makes you bigger." Iris felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you." "For what?" "For believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." Vera hugged her. "Always. Now go be with your boyfriend/business partner, and maybe slow down on the champagne. You have a workshop to prep tomorrow." Iris laughed. Found Owen talking to Marcus about podcast equipment. She slipped her hand into his. He squeezed it without looking away from the conversation. That casual intimacy, that easy connection, it still surprised her sometimes. When everyone finally left, Iris and Owen cleaned up, threw away plastic cups, folded chairs, turned off lights. The store felt sacred in the quiet. "This is really happening," Owen said. "It really is." "Are you scared?" "Terrified. You?" "Same." He pulled her close. "But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe alone." "Me too." They locked up, walked to Owen's apartment, fell asleep tangled together, dreaming of bookstores and words and futures that weren't guaranteed but felt worth fighting for anyway. The manuscript launch party was small, just close friends. Vera's office conference room, wine and cheese and early copies of The Performance. Iris held the book with shaking hands. Seeing her words in print never got old. But this one felt different, more vulnerable, more true. "Speech," Vera demanded. "I'm not good at speeches." "You're a writer. Use your words." Iris looked around the room. Owen, Vera, Claire, a few writer friends. Her therapist, Dr. Shaw, who'd gotten her through the worst of the divorce. Small group, but hers. "Okay, this book almost didn't happen. 8 months ago I was blocked. Couldn't write, couldn't feel. I did something desperate and possibly unethical to try to fix it." She glanced at Owen. He smiled. "It worked. Not how I planned, but it worked. This book is about learning that you can't script love. You can't research your way into feeling. You just have to risk it. And I'm grateful to everyone in this room for teaching me that. Especially Owen, who agreed to be researched and somehow became the person I can't imagine being without." Owen crossed the room, kissed her in front of everyone. Sappy but effective. "Shut up." They ate cheese, drank wine. Iris signed copies for everyone. When she got to Dr. Shaw, her therapist hugged her. "I'm proud of you," Dr. Shaw said. "For the book? For the growth. When you first came to me, you were so closed off. Watching you open up, take risks, build something real, that's the best outcome I could have hoped for. I couldn't have done it without you. You did the work. I just provided the space." When the party wound down, Owen and Iris walked along the waterfront. December in Portland, cold but clear. The city lights reflected on the river. "Your book is going to be huge," Owen said. "You don't know that." "I do. It's brilliant." "You're biased." "Completely. Doesn't make it less true." They walked in comfortable silence. Finally, Iris said, "I've been thinking about moving in together. When construction on the bookstore is done, your apartment upstairs will be noisy and chaotic for months. You could stay with me." Owen stopped walking. "Are you asking me to move in? Is it too fast?" "Probably, but so was everything else. And it worked out." "So is that a yes?" "It's a yes, if you're sure." "I'm sure." He kissed her, cold air, warm lips, the kind of moment that felt cinematic, even though it was just them being them. "I need to tell you something," Owen said when they separated. "Okay." "I finished a poem, a new one, first one in 3 years. Can I read it? It's about you, about this, about being scared but doing it anyway." "I definitely want to read it." He pulled out his phone, showed her a Notes app entry. The poem was short, 12 lines, about distance and closeness, about contracts and connection, about choosing love even when it felt impossible. Iris read it twice. "Owen, this is beautiful." "Yeah? Yeah, you should submit it somewhere, get it published." "I don't know about that." "I do. You're a poet. You've always been a poet. You just forgot for a while." He pocketed his phone. "Maybe. We'll see." They walked back to Iris's apartment, made tea they didn't drink, sat on the couch and talked until dawn about small things and big things and everything in between. And somewhere in those hours, Iris realized she was happy, actually happy, not performing happiness, not writing about happiness, just being happy. It was terrifying and perfect, and exactly what she'd been looking for without knowing how to find it. Construction started on January 3rd. The bookstore closed with a sign that read, "Transforming. Back in 6 weeks. Follow our journey on Instagram." Iris and Owen documented everything. Photos of demolition, videos of new shelves being built, daily updates on the podcast studio taking shape in the basement. The community response was overwhelming. People commented, shared, offered to help, donated books, pledged to attend workshops. The bookstore became something bigger than just a business. It became a symbol of possibility. Owen moved into Iris's apartment on a rainy Tuesday. He didn't have much. Books mostly, clothes, his father's chair, which they put in her living room by the window. It fit perfectly, like it had always belonged there. "This is weird," Owen said, looking around. "Bad weird?" "No, good weird. I've lived alone for 7 years. Now I'm here, with you, in this beautiful apartment, living a life I couldn't have imagined 6 months ago." "Do you miss your place?" "A little, but I like this better." They developed routines, morning coffee together, Owen working on bookstore stuff while Iris wrote, lunch at whatever food cart they discovered, evenings talking through renovation decisions and workshop plans. It was domestic and ordinary, and everything Iris had thought she didn't want. Turned out she wanted exactly this. One night, 3 weeks into construction, they got a call from the contractor. Water damage. Worse than expected. The renovation would take longer. 8 weeks instead of 6. More money, more delays. Owen spiraled, paced the apartment, ran numbers again and again. "We can't afford this." "We'll figure it out." "How? We're already stretching the budget. 8 more weeks means 2 more months without revenue." "Then we find more money." I can take out a loan against royalties. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking. I'm offering. Iris, Owen, we're partners. That means when things go wrong, we deal with it together, not separately. He stopped pacing, looked at her. I hate taking your money. It's not my money anymore. It's ours. That's how partnerships work. He sat down heavily on the couch. I'm scared we're going to lose everything. Then we lose it together, and we start over. But we don't quit. How are you so calm? I'm not calm, I'm terrified, but I'm also committed to this, to you, to us. Owen pulled her close, held on tight. I don't deserve you. Yes, you do. We deserve each other. The good and the messy and everything in between. They sat like that for a long time. Then Owen called the contractor back, approved the additional work. Iris called her agent, started the loan process. By midnight, they had a plan. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The performance released on a Tuesday in late February. Iris woke to text from her publisher. Pre-orders were strong. Reviews were good. One early review called it a meditation on love and vulnerability that feels urgently necessary. Owen made breakfast, pancakes, terrible ones, but the gesture mattered. They ate and read reviews together on her laptop. They love it, Owen said. Some of them do. Most of them do. Listen to this. Calloway has written her most honest book yet. Raw and unafraid, the performance asks whether we can ever truly know another person, or if all relationships are just performances we agree to believe. That's a good one. This is huge, Iris. You're going to be everywhere. I don't know about that, but he was right. By end of week, the book had hit the New York Times bestseller list. Requests for interviews came in, podcasts, radio. A literary magazine wanted to profile her. Vera called, screaming, "You did it! Number 7! With a bullet!" I can't believe it. I can. This book is special. Different from your others. People can feel that. The success was overwhelming and strange because the book was so personal. Readers reached out, told her their own stories of being blocked, of contracts that became real relationships, of learning to feel again after numbness. One email stuck with her, from a woman named Sarah who'd been through a similar divorce, who'd used Iris's book as a roadmap for opening up again, who was now dating someone new and terrified, but trying anyway. Iris read the email to Owen. "See," he said, "you're helping people. I was just trying to help myself." Same thing sometimes. The bookstore renovation finished 2 weeks late, but under the revised budget. They held a soft opening for friends and investors. Marcus walked through with an appraising eye, nodded. "You did it. This is exactly what you pitched." The space was transformed. Ground floor, curated books, wide aisles, comfortable seating. Owen's father's chair in the poetry section. Second floor, 3 workshop rooms, small but efficient. Basement, fully equipped podcast studio with soundproofing and professional equipment. "It's perfect," Claire said, hugging Owen. "It's not perfect, but it's ours." The official opening was scheduled for March 15th. They planned a weekend of events, author readings, workshop demonstrations, live podcast recordings. The community showed up, hundreds of people. The bookstore was packed all weekend. Sunday night, after the last customer left, Iris and Owen sat on the floor, surrounded by empty coffee cups and the exhausted joy of success. "We did it," Iris said. "We really did. Are you happy?" "Happier than I've ever been. You?" "Same." Owen pulled her close. "Thank you." "For what?" "For walking into my store 8 months ago with an insane proposal. For believing in this. For staying even when it got hard. Thank you for saying yes. For taking the risk. Best decision I ever made." They sat in the quiet, the bookstore settling around them. This space they'd built together. This life they were creating. It wasn't perfect. There would be challenges. More water damage or slow months or disagreements about direction. But they'd face it together, partners in every sense of the word. 6 months later, Iris taught her fifth fiction workshop. 12 students, all levels. She'd learned to love teaching, the immediate feedback, the visible growth, the community of writers supporting each other. Owen sat in on the last 20 minutes. He did that sometimes, just watched her teach. Afterward, when the students left, he said, "You're really good at this." "I'm learning." "No, you're a natural. The way you give feedback, honest but kind, people trust you." I just remember what I needed when I was starting. Someone who believed I could do it, but wouldn't lie about the work required. They locked up the workshop room, walked downstairs. The bookstore was busy. 3 people browsed poetry. 2 were in the cafe area reading. Owen had hired a part-time employee, a college student named Maya who loved books as much as he did. "How's the new manuscript coming?" Owen asked. "Slowly, but it's coming." "What's it about?" "A poet who stops writing after his father dies." A bookstore on the brink of closing. 2 people learning that legacy isn't about preservation, it's about transformation. Owen looked at her. "That sounds familiar." "It should. I'm stealing our story again." "I thought the performance was our story." "That was the first version. This is what happened after, the part where we actually built something real." "Are you going to change the names this time?" "Obviously, but everyone will know it's us anyway." "Will it have a happy ending?" "I don't know yet. I'm only 40,000 words in." "When you figure it out, will you tell me?" "You'll be the first to know." They walked through the store together, straightened shelves, checked in with customers, the mundane work of running a business. But it felt significant. Every book placed just so, every conversation about recommendations, every small interaction building towards something larger. At closing, Owen flipped the sign. They counted the register together. Good day. Not great, but solid. The store was profitable now. Not wildly, but enough. They were making it work. Dinner? Owen asked. Your place or mine? Funny. They lived together, had for 7 months, but they still sometimes forgot. Still said my place out of habit. They walked home, made pasta, sat on the couch with wine, and talked about nothing important. Just the easy conversation of people who knew each other deeply and still wanted to know more. Later in bed, Owen said, I submitted 3 poems to a literary journal. Iris turned to him. Really? Yeah, last week. Haven't heard back. That's huge. It's probably nothing. They get hundreds of submissions. But you tried. That's what matters. I've been thinking about writing more, actually pursuing it instead of just pretending I might someday. I think you should. Even if I'm terrible? You're not terrible. But even if you were, you should still do it, because it makes you happy. He kissed her. How did I get so lucky? We both got lucky. Do you think we would have found each other without the contract? I don't know. Maybe. Different circumstances, different timing. But I like to think we would have. Me too. They fell asleep tangled together. Morning came too early, but Iris woke feeling grateful. For this man, this life, this ordinary, extraordinary existence they'd built from desperation and hope. Her phone buzzed. Email from Rebecca. Subject, Book 2, Advance Interest. She opened it. Publishers were already asking about the next book, before it was even finished, offering advances, wanting to secure it early. Iris looked at Owen sleeping beside her, thought about the story she was writing. Their story, the messy, honest, imperfect reality of building something that mattered. She typed back, still writing, but yes, this one will be ready by fall. She sent it, closed her phone, went back to bed, because some mornings the words could wait. And the person beside you was the better story anyway. 1 year after the contract was signed, Iris and Owen returned to the cafe where they'd formalized their arrangement. Same table, Same drinks, different everything else. Remember this? Owen pulled out a folded paper from his wallet, the original contract, worn soft from being carried around. You kept it? Of course I kept it. It's how we started. Iris took the contract, read through the terms she'd written so carefully. 12 dates, clinical language, terms that now felt absurd. We were strangers. We were desperate strangers. You signed this because you needed money. I signed because I needed hope. The money was just the excuse. Iris looked at him. When did you know that this was real? Date 4, when we made terrible pizza and you didn't leave, even though you had every reason to. You? Date 3, the museum. When you told me you were falling for someone who saw you as research, I wanted to tell you I saw you as more than that, but I was too scared. Scared of what? Of ruining the structure, of losing the ability to finish the book, of feeling something I couldn't control. Do you still feel that way? Sometimes, but mostly I just feel lucky. Owen reached across the table, took her hand. I want to ask you something. Okay? We've been together for a year, living together for most of it, running a business together, building a life together, and I know this is fast and maybe impulsive, but he pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring. I don't want another contract. I want the real thing. Will you marry me? Iris stared at the ring, then at Owen. Tears filled her eyes. You're serious? Completely. I love you. I want to spend my life with you, building things, taking risks, being terrified together. That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard. Want me to try again with better ambiance? No, it's perfect. She wiped her eyes. Yes, yes, I'll marry you. Owen slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly, like it had always been there. He came around the table, kissed her while other cafe customers pretended not to watch, but definitely watched. When they separated, Iris laughed. We're engaged. We're engaged. Vera is going to lose her mind. She's been predicting this for months. My therapist will be thrilled but also concerned about pacing. Probably accurate. They sat together, hands linked across the table. The cafe hummed around them. Normal Tuesday afternoon. But nothing about this moment felt normal to Iris. It felt monumental. The kind of thing she would have written in a book, but never believed could happen to her. Can I tell you something? Owen said. Always. I got accepted. The literary journal. They're publishing all 3 poems. Owen, that's amazing. When did you find out? This morning. I was going to wait to tell you, but I can't keep anything from you. I'm so proud of you. It's just 3 poems. It's not just anything. It's your work. Out in the world. That matters. They left the cafe engaged, walked through the city holding hands, called Vera first. She screamed, then cried, then demanded to plan the wedding. Called Claire. She cried immediately. I'm so happy for you both. Called Iris's parents, who'd been cautiously supportive of Owen. They were thrilled. Asked when they could meet him properly. By evening, everyone knew. Social media was full of congratulations, friends texting, the world expanding to make room for their news. That night they sat on the couch in their apartment, ring on Iris's finger, future stretching ahead of them, uncertain and terrifying and full of possibility. What do we do now? Iris asked. Same thing we've been doing. Build things, take risks, try not to fuck it up. Think we can manage that? No idea, but I'm willing to try if you are. I'm willing. She leaned against him, felt his heartbeat steady against her shoulder. Outside, Portland continued being Portland. Rain and lights and ordinary magic. Iris thought about the contract that started all this. The desperate attempt to research love that became love itself. The transactional arrangement that transformed into partnership. The performance that became real. She'd set out to write a book, ended up writing a life. And somewhere in the distance between those 2 things, She'd found exactly what she'd been searching for without knowing how to name it. Not perfection, not answers, not certainty. Just someone willing to be uncertain with her, to build and fail and try again, to choose love even when it was terrifying. That was enough, more than enough. That was everything.